All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to this version of the G Suite for Education. I'm Dr. Mauricio Cadavid, Senior Instructional Designer with Academic Technologies and Innovation. Um, seems like two people are here today. That's good. So what I'll do is I have your participant screen up as well as the group chat in case that you have any questions. And what we could do is, how about if I just start by asking any particular, if you have any particular questions that you would like addressed, that way I can actually just spend time showing you a couple of things and answering your questions. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan to me. I just wanted to get an overview, Mauricio.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. I don't really know anything about tools in Google, so that would be very helpful.
Oh, okay, great. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and I'll give you an overview of the things that we talk about in Google Suite. And then at any point, if you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know. So the first thing just to let you know is, as you probably know, um, our faculty accounts and our student accounts are separate, meaning faculty, we have our Outlook, right, the Microsoft stuff, but for students, we have the Google. And they're the ones that actually have most of the access to all of these tools. Well, we do as well, but we have more, we as in staff and faculty have more limitations. The reason why I'm showing you this is because you'll notice that in Google, we have the @coyote.csusb.edu. Now, if you have been a faculty, a student on campus before you were a faculty or in staff, you actually have a staff Google account. So I'm going to show you how that plays a role, because if you don't have a student account and you're planning to share documents with students from Google, it's going to interfere with what you do. So um, first things first, I logged in through just my Coyote and I just went to student email just so that I can get into Google. Once you are in Google, you're going to find this. Hold on, I had not turned on my little spotter here. You are going to notice the little dots here, and these dots are your Google Apps. But before I click on these Google Apps, you're going to notice that as a student, right, because I've been a student at Cal State as well as staff, so I have this student account which has the @coyote.csusb. You'll notice that there is that particular logo. But as a staff, I also have a @csusb.edu. When I click on the staff one, there's absolutely nothing, because the university does not use the staff email for or faculty email in Google, right? You notice that my account says, my student ID or my staff ID @csusb.edu. So I know that this is a staff account compared to the student account. The image is different, etc. And it has the @coyote.csusb, which means that even though I can send emails from here, I don't receive any emails in this one because I get them through Outlook. As a student, I still get everything, right, that they send to students, right? And so sometimes I get to see some of the things that were sent, to the students or not. The reason why I'm going to leave these two open is so that you can see how they interact with regards to when you're sharing something.
Now, Mauricio, on this,
Yes.
I have both. I got that, I think, the first year I was here. However, I don't see it when I look into my email. So can that be adjusted later?
Yes, and so if you are, so I'm going to close this. If you are, which one don't you see, the staff or the?
Well, mine doesn't go to, let's see, let me go to Google, because I haven't seen that before. Go to the Gmail. Let me see which ones it's showing up. Yeah, it's the staff one, but I do
Okay.
have a student, but it's just not showing up on my account.
Okay, so when you click on your top right-hand corner, and I'm glad that you brought this up because I have 4 different Google accounts, and I have my own personal Google account, plus I have 2 Cal State accounts. And so if you click on your top right-hand corner, even if you are on your staff, and you click on add another
Add an
account.
account,
Yeah.
then it might show up then. Okay,
When
I'll try that.
when you add the student ID or your ID at coyote.csusb.edu, it will log you in into that account.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mauricio, can I ask a
Yes,
question too?
absolutely.
Okay, so I also have private Gmail accounts and then the one through the school that
Yeah.
you get to through Google Drive. And oftentimes when students send me papers that they've have in their Google Drive and they send me a link, it somehow gets screwed up as to which account it's going to. And like, I never know which address I should use and which password I should use to log in. And half the time I can't get the documents because there's just too many accounts, and I don't know how to fix it, or I don't know what's right.
Exactly. Yes, and that is precisely why I'm starting with this, to show you sort of the difficulties that we have with those things, especially because we want to have in our browser, we want to be able to just open a tab and then access our accounts, right? I want to be able to come here and then go to my private account and stuff. However, Google takes the high priority account, meaning the one that you have the most access with, and makes it your default account. So when a student, when a student from here sends you, let's say, like, for example, this particular document, they're sending it from their at coyote.csusb. The problem is that because students don't have a staff account, the only person that can open this is someone that has at coyote.csusb.edu.
I wish they would have explained that to us. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, I knew they were separate, but I didn't understand if they shared it to my address, because usually you can share, but you have it turned off where it's student, student, faculty, faculty.
Exactly. And so this is sort of the little bit, you guys are turning on your cameras. You're gonna make me want to turn to mine.
I can turn it off. You don't need to see
It's
me.
Okay, there. I have
No, but
camera.
the issue, yeah, so we're a small group. So
Yeah.
I'm actually here. Okay, so if a student sends us that document and they're sending it from a Coyote address,
Yes.
do they even know that we won't be able to open it as a faculty member?
No, because to a student, they're thinking it's Google, there's the email, let me send it, let's leave it up to the professor to open it. So now here, so this is what happens, right? So you're going to click on this one, and my Google is going to recognize, hey, look, you have a staff account. That's why it opened this one. That means that you have access to students and staff account, right? Well, that's beneficial to me if I'm logged in both, as a student, right, and as the staff. But if I am going to share this particular document and I am in the staff account, and by staff, I mean, it doesn't have that coyote.csusb.edu. This is what I have to do. And I must tell you, you're not going to like the answer, but take that up with the people that are above me. I'm going to click on share, right? First thing is you're going to say, well, Mauricio, one of the big problems that we have is that staff is in Microsoft and students are in Google. I cannot just simply start doing an email here. These are only all the people that I have in my contact. Where is the rest of everybody, right? Like I would have to find that student that's called, 25 at Coyote. Imagine if you had 30 students, 20 students, right? It doesn't matter. You don't want to be typing in all of those different things in here. And this is because I'm going through my staff one, right? And then obviously it's going to say what they want to do, etc. However, here's the little trick, right? I'm going to click again, share, right? And then I'm going to come over here. If you're going to send it to another staff member, right? So you can put the email here and then it'll work. If you want to send it to students, this is what the university is telling me to share with you, is we can click on who has access. And now all of a sudden, we have a link sharing option. And that link sharing option is going to tell me, do I want external access? Meaning that I am going to have to copy this, and instead of sending it from here, I'm going to have to go, right? So I copied it, I'm going to click done, and then I'm going into my email, and then I'm going to share that with the people that I want to share. Now, what we just did is that we made this link to be accessible by anybody that is not just in coyote.csusb.edu. So we just made this sort of like an external link that anybody can access. Where is the problem with this? Well, the problem with this is that if you just want to share something with your class, right, and you wanted to do it through Google Share, and you didn't do it with the, at coyote.csu.edu, and you send it with this actual link, then a student can actually send it to somebody else who's not at Cal State, and they can open it. Right? This becomes sort of like a public now document with anybody that, that doesn't have this. So I'm going to show you, let me go to this one. I'm going to send it to myself. So I'm in my staff account. See, there is no at coyote.csusb.edu, and I'm going to send it to my student account. Okay. I'm going to click on send. So this still works, right? There's nothing here. But when I come over to my student account, and it takes just a little bit, to get through, because it has to go through some things in the background and everything, is now I got, as a student, now I got the document from my professor, right? I'm going to log out of my staff account. And I'm going to click on my Google. It's going to tell me, hey, oops, sorry. How do you want to view this? And so here is where both us as staff or students, we need to know that if this was sent by a faculty and I don't have a staff account, most likely the faculty sent it as a link. So I'm going to click it here. It's going to go through my verification, right? Now that I'm logged in, I can come here and see, what the faculty sent me for me to do. And notice that I am now in my student account. Otherwise, if I didn't do it with that link, as shared, anybody with the link can access it, this would have said, you need to ask permission. And you're like, what do you mean I need to ask permission? This is my student. The student is sending me, a document for me to revise, right? As a student, I can then come over here and start typing. And when I switch my account, right? So I'm going to go and log into this one. Yes, it's going to verify that it's me. Now I get to see here in the top right-hand corner that not only me, but there is somebody else who is currently editing this. And of course, I can see here at the bottom, where the person is editing. I can now see history, right? I can actually come to file, version history, right? And then I can see all of the different changes that have been made. But this is because I did not send this document through share and to the individual students. I had to copy, right, a link that is open, right? Come on. I have to copy and make sure, and by the way, when you see links, let me bring this up right here real quick. Notice that if it says edit, that's usually the link that you're going to. So if you take a look up here, you want to make sure that whatever link it is you're sending, that at the end of it says sharing. Because if it said something like view, right, it means that the student is only going to be able to see it, or they're not going to be able to edit. Now, who owns this document? You notice that I just logged in, or that I am logged in here as a student, right? Currently, I'm seeing this. This is not my document. This is the faculty who sent me the document, right? That's why when I'm going to share it, it's keeping me within that Cal state. And it's saying, hey, you cannot, you don't have permission, to do anything to this. This is not your document, sort of thing. Now, students may not get so confused as the faculty because students only have one account. They just have the Google account. But when it comes to a faculty, I could have been logged in my personal account, right? Yes, verify that it's me. Okay, all of the different things. Let me enter this. And then I get this. As a faculty, I'm like, excuse me, but you need to grant me permission. And the student is like, professor, but you told me, submit the paper. I did. I sent it to you. Like, why do I have to grant you permission, right? And it's because this email, right, it's outside of the Cal State. And it's because I was forwarding from my student account, which does not allow me to forward outside of Cal State San Bernardino. How's that for a headache? But at least
it is, I understand that. So in order to see that document, I have to be logged into my student account, is what you're saying.
if correct, if it's a student sending it to you.
Okay.
Now, if it is the student's account, if it is the student's file, okay. So to answer that question, let me finish this part right here, because
Okay.
now we're going to take a look at it from the student perspective, right? Sort of like what the student will need to do. Because this document, this original document, right, was created by me. This is my document. It's my staff document that I shared with the student. And so what I did is that for me to share the document that is in my staff drive with a student, I needed to create a shareable link to say anybody with this link can view it. But if the student is going to send it to me, right, that means that the student is the owner of that document, right? Then they can send it to me within their shared drive. Let me show you real quick. So, okay, I'm going to close all of these. All right, so I'm in my student account. So I'm a student. How do I know? Simply, if a student is asking you, professor, how do I know that I have a student account or not? Go to the top right-hand corner, and if you have at coyote.csusb.edu, that's your student account, right? If you're working with a colleague, another professor or something like that, and they're sending it to you through their at mail.csusb.edu or at csusb.edu, that means that they're sending it from their staff Google Drive, right? Okay, so let me go, and I'm going to open my docs, which, by the way, this is what the G Suite is that we were going to talk about, which is the drive, the three main used documents, which is your drive, your sheets, and your slides. And that's just your PowerPoint, Excel, and Microsoft Word. Sites is where they're able to create their own websites in case that you wanted them to work like in a portfolio or something for a website. And then Meet and Hangouts is just an internal student sort of series for them to be able to do like group work and stuff, just to meet, right? So this is like a Snapchat, a Facebook sort of thing. Meet, just really quick, one of the things that I really love about Meet is that it functions just like Zoom, right? And so you can actually create a meeting. So I'm going to have a meeting for my students in my eTech course. And then I'm going to send, yes, start the camera. And then I'm going to send them, I'm gonna turn off my camera for Zoom so that this camera can see it. So if you can see me right now, I can actually send this to my classmates or even to my professors if we log in into this, and then I can either join. So when you share this, as in we're going to meet on this date at this time, they don't have to have Zoom. They can just do it directly through here. If they needed to present, right, they can just go click present and select their PowerPoint, their website, or anything shared, and then start presenting now. So this is a simple set of bare bones Zoom that all students would have actually have access to. So if students don't want to download Zoom and they just have their laptop and they just want to go ahead and have video meetings, you know, with their classmates or something like that, they can do it right here. So that's all I'm going to say about Meet. So I'm going to go to my docs. Which docs? My student documents, right? So these are my documents. It tells me down here, you know, just by the simple logo that is being shared with someone else. And then it tells me right there, hey, this is shared with other people who are not members of this particular, you know, drive, just so you know. So I'm just going to open a document, right? And where am I logging in from? From my student, right? You see on my top right-hand corner, that means that I'm working on this as a student. This is my class assignment that I have to submit, etc. When I'm done with this, I'm going to either turn it in if I'm using Google Classroom. Okay, we're not going to talk about Google Classroom right now because I gave a whole Google Classroom thing. But if you are using Google Classroom, they're able to simply submit it through here directly into Google Classroom for a grade. But I'm going to share it. Again, if I don't have my faculty member, right? So if I do this, MK David, and I'm going to say send, it's going to say, dude, what are you doing? This at csusb.edu, this is not a Google account, right? You cannot share it with them. So you're like, oh, okay, so then no, then that means that I have to, right, write my professor's, you know, set of staff email, which students are not going to want to do. So what is the student going to do? Here, I'm going to send it to my professor, send, yes, now the professor is going to get it. Guess what is going to happen when I get it?
You can't see it.
I can't. I need to
Yeah.
request access, right? Because it went to my Microsoft account, right? It went to my Outlook account. I click on it and it's going to say, you need permission for this. And you need a Google account to be able to see this, right? So what do we tell our students, or what we should tell the students, is share. And instead of sending that email here, they need to get a shareable link. And not only that, but they need to turn this off. Because the three options are add Coyote Mail, Coyote Mail, Coyote Mail. And the three options are edit, comment, and view. But they're all for Coyote Mail. So if a student is working on your Google Docs, on their Google Docs, excuse me, and they're working on a document that they want to send to you, they'll have to turn it off so that they can get this link, right? The sharing link to anybody who is outside of Google, right? Click done, create that email, and say, here's my paper. Right? And then they can send it to you. But the important part is that they took the link that allows anyone with the link, with the shareable link, right, who is outside of that Coyote Mail to view it. And at this point, you, quote unquote, should not get the permission. Now you're just going to get a link that you can click on, and access the document without, any of these things here, right? Because you're just looking at a document. Now, here's a little bit of inception, for you. So I'm going to go into my staff Google account, right? This is the document that I just received. When I am in this account, right, and it shows who's doing, this particular account, right? I can go, if I want, to my drive in this account, make a copy of the document to make it mine. Now, I realized that I didn't turn my camera back on, right? So now when I open this through my account, right, I can actually just go to, Google Drive, .com. Just gonna, anywhere that I can get into that Google Drive, switch my account, and then in here, yes, got it. And then in here, now I'm going to see, what the student just sent me, right? So now I can see it in that staff one, see what I just did, what the student just did. But again, I have to be in that Google account, in that staff account, because through the Outlook, you're not going to be able to. If I come over here and then I make a copy, right, and I put it in a place of my, if I have a folder, right, so this is one of my folders in the drive, or I can just create another folder within that staff account drive, then I am making that document mine, which means that I'll be able to edit and then reshare with students, etc. So it is not very intuitive, I'm afraid to say that, but unfortunately, but there is a little bit of a workaround.
Can I ask a quick question? I've
Yes,
had
of
some
course.
documents that I can open on my campus computer and not open on my home computer, even though I'm logged into the campus email.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that isn't a problem right now, but what causes that?
Yeah, and so that has to do with the domain, because before we were not, like right now, when I brought in all my computer and everything here to my office, to my house, my office house, Cal State San Bernardino now opened up the IP addresses to know this is a work computer. This is now something that is connected to the Cal State domain. Before, because there was no telecommuting policy, your personal computer at home was not directly connected to the network at Cal State, so it recognized you as being outside, which means that if the students were sending you something that was within that Coyote Mail, domain, you were not going to be able to see it outside. Now that your computer, and that now they're letting everybody who's got the computer, who works for Cal State, who is a certified, user in the network, can now access them, because they know, oh yeah, this account can actually be accessed to it. Otherwise, we would still be having, this problem. So like, for example, if everything gets resolved, well, resolved by meaning sort of semi back to normal for fall, and we go back to the office, then all of these restrictions are going to get back in place, which is that you're now going to have to open things when you are within your office at Cal State, and then at home it's going to be different. So to avoid all of these things, the best way is to just tell your students, you know what, do this, get that link, that shareable link, and then just email it to me. that's going to be the shortest, set of way, to do it. Okay. So yeah, so right now I'm in this drive, and since I am in the drive, so let me show you how it also, sort of makes a difference. This is my student drive, and I can have, right, so within my drive, I can have, and again, make sure that when you click on that top right-hand corner, it says Coyote at CSUSB. That means that that is your student, right? So that means that anything that you have here, it's going to be different than anything that you have within your staff drive. Okay, so one of the things that you could do, for example, is you can create a drive as a student, a folder, right? So like, for example, I have this, and anything that I put in here, I can then share this folder with the students, right? So now if I had anything here, and then you can see shared with people, anything that I'm going to put in here, I'm just going to get that link. I'm going to turn it off just to avoid problems, right? Because, and again, you may be saying, well, Marisa, what do you mean avoid problems? I don't want to make my links sort of public. And says, well, the problem is, what if a student has a Hotmail account or a different Gmail account that is not the Coyote? We know that students have that, but it is a policy of the university that all official business needs to be done through your coyote.csusb.edu account, right? We sort of have to have that in our syllabus and tell them, hey, if you don't check your Cal State email and then you tell me, I don't know where you send the email, that is your problem, right? And so most students are forwarding their emails, right? And so they're making their email, if they still had a Yahoo account or an AOL account or whichever, or they have a Charter account or an AT&T email account, whichever one, they're forwarding them, to that account, right? It is the student's responsibility to check the Cal State account. Also because that is the email address in Blackboard, because Blackboard is getting the information from PeopleSoft, and PeopleSoft is the official registrar of your students, right? And so the moment that a student gets registered, they'll get their student ID at coyote.csusb.edu. They get registered in your class, Blackboard comes in, takes that roster from your class, right, and then puts it in in Blackboard. And so now you go to Blackboard to send an announcement, to share the file from Blackboard, to remind students of an upcoming assignment, to create an announcement that says readings for this week, send it now. Well, Blackboard is going to send it to the coyote.csusb.edu. And then your student is going to say, well, I don't check my Cal State email, I don't get anything there. Well, that's the problem. So what you need to do is you get that shareable link, you turn it off, right? And again, you see that because this is a folder, there's no need for commenting, just for editing and viewing, right? And by editing means that you can tell the students, I'm giving you the right to upload a paper there, right? Or a PowerPoint there, or your class, right? So this becomes like a Dropbox, like a Google Dropbox in a way, right? I'm going to copy that link, right? And then I am going to go and share it with the students. You can do the same thing there, but the problem is you gotta remember which drive is that you're getting it from or that you're sharing.
Now, Marisa, if
Yes.
that's sharing a folder, if you just wanted a Dropbox where they couldn't pull anything or view anything in it, could you do that here?
Yeah, so as a staff, so like for example, I have this classroom one here, and I have several folders. So if I am in this e-tech just for this section, as a staff, oops, it's telling me, I am the owner, and anybody that I give access, to my classroom is going to be here. But then I go to sharing, edit, sharing, edits, and then what I will do, because these are for my students, I will tell them I will leave that at this and then just send it to the students on that email. That means that I am forcing the students to log in through their CSUSB. through their code. They don't want anybody to, delete a file that I have there or anything, then I'm not going to get that shareable link. I'm going to tell them, hey, you can come in, you can view it, right? Deleting means that they're not going to be able to remove anything, but they're able to add to it.
Okay, but they can still view other files?
Correct. Anything that you have within that folder. Because if you just want to share one file, if I just want to share this file for this class, then I just simply go to the sharing for this particular file, right? Which is up here.
Yeah, we
If I
have
want the
files that they need to drop, but I don't want them to view other files. I just want them to drop it. And that's
yeah,
it.
you could create a subfolder, of that, right? So you can create an actual, if I have my ETIC 644, I could create two sections. One, which will be the one for them to drop, and then the other one, which would be the one, for them to just simply see. And then I can
So
then, go ahead.
the folder that you're just dropping, what are the settings?
Well, it will be an empty folder for edit, because you just said that you don't want to give them access to a folder in which they can drop, but you don't want them to see other things.
Mm-hmm.
So for the dropping, I would only create a folder for editing, right? In which they can just drop and delete their own things, but I wouldn't put any of, those files that are yours that you don't want them, to delete if they have an editing. So then you will create, go ahead.
I thought if they edit it, if you select edit, they can edit anything inside the folder.
Yeah, but remember, it's going to be a subfolder. So when you say, like, for example, I don't want them to, in this ETIC course, I don't want them to take a look at this quiz that I have, and I don't want them to take a look at, this particular thing that I have here. Well, I'm not going to give them access to this folder. I'm going to create a subfolder out of this. And for that folder, I'm going to then let them either view it without them being able to edit anything, or edit that subfolder of the folder. That means that they're not going to be able to come back to the 644. They're only going to have the rights to add things into the subfolder of the 644.
Okay, so it has to be a subfolder.
Yeah, so like if they are in a subfolder and they don't have access to this one, when they come back, it's going to look like you cannot access any of these.
But they can access anything that's in that subfolder.
Correct, but they can
Yeah, that's what
access.
I'm trying to avoid, of them accessing anything that others are dropping.
Oh, yeah. Now I see what you mean. If there is another student that is, yes, and that's why it wouldn't work like this. This is more for, unless it is through the Google Classroom, because through Google Classroom, it becomes more like an assignment, and then they'll just be dropping in. But yeah, this is about collaboration. This is about like, hey, everybody, let's put all our things here and stuff like that. It's, yeah.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
question. I'm glad you clarified that. Okay, so yeah, so for the drives, again, as students, they have the same as with, students can create, sort of their own things. As staff, you also have access to a lot of different things. And then you'll notice that one thing that's different is in the staff, you can take things offline, and the students, you lose that option. Like, not because it's the opposite, meaning because this is a collaboration in this staff, you can actually send something to someone, share something to someone without any editing or anything like that, and then take it away but still have it. Students, they just don't share it, period. Sorry. And that's the drive. As a student, again, I have access to all of the different things that we have. And let me just see, what time is it? So I wanna, okay, so we have about 18 minutes. Do you have any questions? So right now, pretty much what I just wanted to make sure that we understood was the accounts part. As you can see, is a little bit sort of messy, right? That's what we spent most of our time in, the accounts. The drive, we just kind of took a look at the drive and the fact that you can have, and by the way, do you know that we also have access to OneDrive, which is the Microsoft one?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so it's kind of hard sometimes to think when you say, it's like, I put it in the drive, you'll tell your classmate or something, it's up in the drive, and you go like, well, which drive? That's because when you download anything from your Microsoft account to the drive, you're going to the OneDrive of Microsoft. You're not going to the Google Drive, right? And so it may be like, well, which drive? I don't see it. Do you have any questions about the docs, the sheets, and the slides? So very quickly, docs is just simply your Word document. Sheets is your Excel, and slide is your PowerPoint. Because they all work within your Google Suite, they're all connected into one, which means that in a student drive, as you can see here, this is my student drive. I have my Word documents, my presentations in PowerPoint, my Excels, right? And I could organize all of these within, like if I say create workspace, students and staff could actually organize them sort of like a class that you can think of, or project, right? Because this is not necessarily for classrooms. This could just be that you're working on a particular grant. This could be that you're working on a particular, research study or something, and so you can keep things here. But everything is, it's connected, and within your drive, you have the options to share, things, right? And stuff like that. And again, oh, and by the way, if you are teaching a class in which you're a stickler, yeah, for like APA or MLA formatting, remember that when a student copies a paper from Word document, right, that is being formatted for APA and stuff like that, when they bring it into Google, they're going to lose a couple of those formattings, some of the headings and stuff like that. So like when I was working on my dissertation, back in the day, some of the measurements didn't go, with what the grad studies, template had. And so if you were asking your students, do it in APA format, and then send it to you through Google, you're, as a faculty, you're going to have to remember that Google is not going to retain some of those specialized APA and MLA formatting things. So just as that. The same thing with Excel. Excel works, the sheets work very similar to Excel. However, there are some formula functions that don't work. You can still export anything from here, right? When you come here, you can actually export it and then have your spreadsheet settings to be on CSV, which is the comma delimited value or separated values, and then bring it into Excel. But again, there are going to be some things here, some formulas, some advanced formulas that work only on Microsoft, but everything else is going to be, pretty similar from here. In any of the documents, you're always going to have your options on your top right-hand corner. This one, because this was my dissertation, I created it with my staff account, and so because I am in my student account, that's why I have this, right? Like I am asking this person. So if this was my advisor who wanted to work on my dissertation and then give some edits and everything, I would have to change this into that staff email. And then the slides, again, is just a PowerPoint, sort of format. One of the good things about the slides in Google is you have no problem with size. In PowerPoint, you have, limitations of size with regards to your voice narration or maybe doing videos and stuff like that in it. And also in PowerPoint, if you were going to embed a YouTube video, for example, you would have to export that PowerPoint as a show to carry with you, and show it. Because it's Google and YouTube is part of it, then it's always going to play it whenever you put it here. Speaking of YouTube, you notice that There is a YouTube here that is part of that suite. Kate, do you have a question? Sorry, I just saw
Yeah,
your.
I do, but that means that you always have to be online. Like if I
Mhm.
were to run off and give a presentation at somewhere else, I couldn't just bring my computer and plug it in and not have access to the internet
Yeah.
locally.
So so what you will have to do is just the the old-fashioned way, which is to keep an offline version of it. Where you download the thing, the video or stuff like that. So yeah.
So then you would download it as a PowerPoint. You wouldn't download it as a Sheets because Sheets would need to always be run through Google
You mean the
online.
slides?
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Well, and so when you have this PowerPoint, and then so you'll see when you have access to the internet. So if you're going, you can just click there and start your presentation. But then you can just download it, or so when you go to download, it's going to tell you what options do you have, and so the first option is going to be that PowerPoint. Yeah, which of course, as an instructional designer, I'll be saying that it's always a good option or best practice to have an alternative, to it. For example, you may be able to work, or you will be able to work on a plane if you're not connected to the internet to creating things and stuff like that. And the moment you connect, it updates to your drive, but it just means that it stays locally on your computer. So it's always good to to know like, hey, you know what? I'm done with this. I got all the videos and everything. They're up in the cloud. But what if internet is not working where I'm going to give that presentation? Let me just download it here. And so you can just simply click on download. And there it is. It just downloads right at the bottom, right? And then anything that you have here that is a link to YouTube, it's going to tell you, hey, by the way, CSS files from the internet, you want to make sure that you enable the editing. If you leave it like this and you start the presentation, right, because you did not enable those, then the video is still not going to play it, and then you're going to think, oh my gosh, this is just, so just simply enable editing, and that means that anything that you brought in from the internet when you were working online, that is going to have access to it right there. And so what I was going to quickly mention is the YouTube. And the YouTube is because everybody has a Google account, that means that everybody has a YouTube account. When you're going to go to YouTube, you'll notice again here on your top right hand side, it's got your, yes, got it. It's got your student account, right? So I'm logged in as the student account. And yes, so these are just my girls watching Frozen things and funny things. That means that if you were working in a class, either as a student or faculty, and you were telling students, create, a video, and you don't want them to send you the large video, a file or something, and then you're sort of like hesitant with YouTube because you think that it's public and everything. Remember that as a student account, you can create your own channel, right? Because this is going to be a YouTube under Cal State San Bernardino. You can create your own channel in which you can actually just, make the videos that you upload unlisted, which means that only the person with the link will be able to see it. That means that nobody's going to be able to come into YouTube and search Mauricio Cadavid, psychology session, 3, and then pop up. Only the person, which means that only the faculty, you will be able to, to use this when they upload, which means that students within their private Google account or their private YouTube account, they can then upload a video for an assignment and then send it to you, knowing that nobody else is going to see it, but only the faculty. That's if they do it through their student account, right? Because through here, see how it says manage my account. If I am in my staff account and I go to Google, then it's going to identify and say, no, you're actually in your student account. And if I log out of this one and log in with my staff account, then that's going to be like a different Google channel. Does that make a little bit of sense? Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
I
oh,
had one questions with Google Doc. I try to get it in there, but with a dissertation, what is the best practice you would recommend? Because you like to share it so you can, give comments online, but
mhm.
then you can't do the format. So what's best practice? Do you just wait to the end to do all the formatting? Is that what?
Well, and so the good thing now is that, I mean, if your students are, and all of these are alternatives. So let me start with this, meaning that a student, technically speaking, can come to your class and say, I have an old computer. It doesn't have, Windows, and I don't want to purchase Windows, even though it's cheap and stuff like that. Then one of the things that you could do is you do everything through Google Sheets. And then when you are done with the actual content editing, not format editing, then you can export it and then bring in your format from graduate studies, that template that graduate studies has.
Why would you use Sheets instead of Docs?
I mean, sorry, docs. Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
sorry. Thank you. Yeah, docs. I have everything here. Google Docs. To do everything here, and again, Google Docs offers you sort of what now Microsoft was with all of editing features, not editing features, commenting, history, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the benefits is that every time that you are working on Google Docs, anything that you're doing, right? So anything that I'm doing here is being saved, sort of automatically, right? And so there's one of the things here, you notice when I finally upload this was draft 5, right? The word five drafts, but technically speaking, you could be working with your advisor or faculty or your committee, and then everybody can be making changes automatically, and you can see all of the changes, and they're saved automatically, rather than sending an email, and having to put at the end, for example, like this used to be like MC, right? And so if the next person would be like B, Kate L, or BS, like Becky, and doing this. With this, you can actually just simply see the history of everybody who's been doing it. Any changes that happen, you can always go back to it. Obviously, you have within this one, you have your commenting options in which you're able to resolve issues and stuff like that. So it becomes a little bit more, less of email exchange and who received. You will be working on a single document, rather than if you're working in a committee and then everybody's like, oh, wait a minute, why did you put that comma here? The other person hasn't said that it's supposed to be a semicolon. In one document, you're able to do it. And then when content is done, then you start working on your formatting.
Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome. Um, that's pretty much the G Suites. Anything that you just needed to know, within Google's. There are many other options. Photos is going to go away. They're just going to become, part of Google Drive, and Forms. They've been talking about Forms going or not going away. It's not really used by students. It is used, by faculty, or those who feel comfortable with it. Whenever you are working on your drive, one of the sort of benefits that I show some of the students that like to use it is always here on your right-hand side. You can create your own tasks to remind you of things that are coming up. This is sort of like if you're a good quote unquote Blackboard instructor, in which you are putting due dates on things so that when your students log into Blackboard, they see it on their homepage, what's coming up and everything. This is a good way of actually, helping your students become more organized. Or as a staff, you can actually just put things here, said, I got to follow up on this. I have to, send an email to this person and stuff like that. But that's pretty much G Suite. And the killer here is that in Windows or in Mac, everything is a standalone application. right? And so things are sort of like working independently, and it's hard to mash them. But because it's Google, Google with the Google Drive allows students to have all their docs, their sheets, their documents, more organized. Everything is always updated, which means that when a student comes in, you'll notice that there is my priority page. Every time that I come in, is going to say, this is everything that you've been working on, right? So I have it in one single place rather than on the computer. I have to go to different places to access things and stuff. And I think that's pretty much a good overview, without spending an incredible amount of time on each of these applications. Does anybody have any questions or?
I only have one. Since the G Suite, I thought it would be able to do like a Dropbox. What would you recommend for like a Dropbox?
What are your intentions? What do you want to do?
Well, they're going to drop something, but I don't want them to read the other students' submissions. And I could
Okay.
use Blackboard, but this is for the whole program. It's a form they need to fill out for us. And instead of them sending it to email, I'd rather just have a Dropbox. They drop it in there and then we'll have the form.
Is the form online?
No, it's a PDF and it's a form they fill out and do a digital signature, and then they stick into a Dropbox, hopefully. Right now they're emailing it, but I'd rather for the next submission have it more of a Dropbox.
Well, and so the good thing is that through Adobe, and Adobe has the Adobe suite, which students also have access to. Any form that has an e-signature, it remains private. Students don't see anybody else's work, which means that it goes directly through. Have you worked with Adobe before?
I have, but some of them actually print it out, sign it, scan it again, or take a picture of it and drop it back because their skills aren't quite, they don't know how to use the Adobe suite. So they return it in different formats.
Okay. So, for that, for them to be sending it to you, I think at this particular point, let me investigate so that I don't keep the other folks. Let me investigate a little bit further on the subfolder privacy settings.
Okay.
Because if you can then in your staff account of your drive, you could have something that says, form 367 or something, and then I share that document with the students, so I'm gonna share it with myself and see if I am able to upload a document without having access to anything else. Then that's what would work for you, correct?
Yeah, I used to have something that worked. I don't know if it was Dropbox or Drive or what it was, but for some reason I can't find it again. So
Okay.
yeah, that would be nice to do that, because otherwise they used to just drop it off at my office in a box, so it would stay private. But now we don't have that feature, so I'm struggling. I don't like all the emails. I can set up email rules and everything, but they don't always follow the title. They don't put the title in, so then it goes all over the place.
Okay.
All right, thanks. I really appreciate you going over, especially the permissions. It makes sense now why I keep getting that error.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you also. That just knowing what the problems are is very helpful. So, thanks.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I did, I don't know how many other ATI workshops or webinars have you attended, but in the chat, I sent you a form that we're using, that has two particular purposes. One is for us to know whether or not people are attending our workshops and what they want and our reach to them. And also is if you as a faculty are working on your sort of like FAR files or something like that, one of the things that we do is when you send us an email and say, hey, TI, can you let me know what workshops I've attended in the past year or something, we'll take a look at that form, and then we're able to then individualize, you know, a letter with each of the workshops that you've attended, you know, and the objectives and stuff like that. So let me know if you got it. It's on the group chat and stuff like that. And also, if you have, I'm going to show you. I'm going to send you also for me my calendar. And what that calendar does is that, as you can see it right here, if you wanted to schedule a quick 30-minute sort of like, I just have a question, Mauricio, can you show me, or can you help me go over X, Y, and Z or something? Or I'm planning on doing a particular project in my class, and I was wondering if I could use like Adobe, you know, since students have Adobe right now, so Adobe Spark or something. Anything that you want, you can actually schedule it through here. Obviously, we're doing it because of we're working from home, and so like I have back to back, and so it's easier than to send an email and then try to find something. You can actually just go, if you say that you wanted a 30-minute meeting with me, you click on it, and then it shows you the availability of the, you know, 10 minutes. So like on Monday, it'll show you exactly which 30 minutes I have available, and then you can just schedule it from there, and it'll be through Zoom, and it's kind of more convenient. Okay. All right, everyone. So thank you again. It's a Friday, and in keeping you on time, it is 12:33. Stay safe. It's great seeing you all, and hope that today's webinar was helpful.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You're very
Take care.
welcome. Okay, we'll see ya. Bye-bye.